onto our very first ale. So ale means that it's top fermented at slightly warmer temperatures. So what that does is it releases a lot more flavor. There's a lot more sort of combinations between all the particles and the molecules in it, and that's where the brewing science comes into it. So basically what we're going to taste on this is a lot more sort of fruity character than we had on the lagers and the pilsners. These definitely go better with food purely because they are a lot more complex. This is a very entry-level ale. So this is brewed by Devil's Peak Brewing Company in Salt River. It's brewed by an ex-winemaker named J.C. Stain. They only brew American-style ales, which means that they use American hops in it and they brew according to that style guideline. Style guidelines we'll talk about another time. But again, you can see very similar in color to the lager and the pilsner.
But a little more cloudy.
A little more cloudy. So that's just also a sign of how much they filtered the beer. I do know that this beer is filtered. It might not be down to the same microns as those last ones were, but you can definitely see your hand through it on the other side. And a lot of it is just taking the particulate out of it, just so that it sort of gives it a little bit more of a shelf life. It's not to take anything away from the flavor. So again, a decent head, quite large bubbles again. That's maybe just from how we poured it or if the beer is slightly warmer, but at least the head isn't disappearing completely very quickly. A lot more fruity.
Definitely.
A lot more fruity. So that fruit that you smell is the reactions of the molecules together and the yeast. So that releases different flavors, esters and phenols, they call it, and various other things. You get a little bit more sort of tropical fruit.
Yeah.
A bit of
pineapple.
A bit of pineapple, a bit of granadilla. You would find it a lot more on some of the other beers, but you do get it, and that's from the American hops. I'm not 100% sure which hops they use, and the reactions with the yeast in the fermentation process. So yeah, I mean it's a very entry level ale. It's easy drinking, it's light, it's refreshing. If someone came up to a bar and said, do you have something that's like a lager but it's an ale, I'd probably recommend them this. It's definitely sessionable, and I think it doesn't have that sort of acidity and bitterness that a really strong ale would have. So it would go very well with food.